My own religious belief about the sinful nature of particular people's behavior should have no impact on how you act in a free country or how you think.
I just said that. Exactly.
So you've come out against the rioters in Charlottesville and all their violence and bigotry.
Yep.
The leaders of the Charlottesville rally were empowered by the rhetoric and agenda of Donald Trump and a lot of his associates as they've come out in the Vice documentary and claimed. You've not only said controversial things, but you've had a couple of attacks against the trans community, transphobic attacks, even your call for the transfer of Palestinians, which I don't know if you've redacted that.
Yeah, I redacted that like 9 years ago.
I wanted to make sure. I wanted to ask you. No, I'm just learning about Ben.
No, really, that's fine. That's fine.
But even with that, do you feel that a lot of your speech could incite the same kind of violence?
I mean, you heard my speech tonight. Do you feel that my speech could incite violence?
Well,
I understand if someone says something extremely harmful or disrespectful and how that can incite violence. But if you have the freedom of speech and you're saying something which could be up for debate, then I don't understand how that can incite violence. For example, if you're giving a political opinion, a religious opinion, how does that incite violence? And one thing that always confuses me is that violence is only incited from one side. And the reason I'm not going to say that. I'm not going to say that. But violence is usually only incited by people who don't know what's going on. They're a little delusional. That's how violence is usually incited. It's never people who make sense or who are logical thinkers who say, oh, I'm about to get up and go cause some violence. But let's continue and see what happens.
I mean that seriously. That's an honest question.
I know you're asking honestly. I feel that for me, as an individual, it isn't, but I could see how a lot of your points I really disagreed with. I literally have a list of
and that's fine. I mean, that's the good part, right? Where we disagree and we can have a conversation.
I just was wondering in terms of, and what I mean by inciting violence is encouraging the same people who believe in like your transphobic beliefs, even that like homophobia is a sin based on your religious beliefs. Do you believe that because of what you say, you can encourage a lot of people to act on those beliefs?
So I have a very strong standard with regard to incitement, and I'm very consistent about this. If I'm not telling somebody to commit violence, I'm not inciting them to violence. I've held the standard for Barack Obama when he was saying anti-police things, and then somebody went and shot up some police officers in Dallas. I said that's not Barack Obama's fault. When a Bernie Sanders supporter went and shot up a congressional baseball game, I said that's not Bernie Sanders' fault because Bernie Sanders wasn't calling for that. Political debate requires that you talk to people, and people take your words as what they mean.
That's true. That's true. If you're not saying, go do this right now, that's not inciting violence. And the reason I say that is because it's unfair to say someone is inciting violence based off of how their words are interpreted. It sucks because if you have a lot of influence and you say something and then people just decide to act or decide to do something, that doesn't mean that you told them to do that. That means that they wanted to do that, and they're using you as an excuse.
Not as an excuse to go and do violence. I've never called for violence, nor would I. As far as the idea that my words are some sort of attack, a violent attack, for example, on folks who are transgender, my view.
I'm not saying
I know, but I'm responding to the people who are not you who might say that. Okay. So the idea that I am transphobic, for example, this is a bizarre kind of attack in the sense that I don't know that I've ever exhibited phobia of trans people. I'm not afraid of trans people.
Well, transphobia is more along the lines of prejudice against the trans.
So I actually think that your first characterization was right. I think that transphobia is really disagreement with the basic principle that the trans community is trying to purvey, which is that people's sex is malleable, that people can move from male to female, and that it is my job, objectively, to now call them the name they wish to be called, and to teach my children that men can be women and women can be men. I fundamentally disagree with that point.
And this is my problem, bro. This is a genuine problem I have. People like to attack religious people for operating within their religion. And what do I mean? He's Jewish. And when you are Jewish, there are certain things that you do. There are certain things that you don't do according to your religion. Same way with Christianity, same with if you're a Catholic, same way if you're a Muslim. But the problem is, when it comes to transphobia or those type of discussions or issues, if someone says, my religion says that this is not the way to go, or this is not what we do in my religion, so I don't support it, for some reason, they're called a phobia. Some phobia, just put a word in front of it. Phobia of something. But my thing is their religion. So how could they support their religion and still outwardly support something else? It's a contradiction. And people get criticized for that when they're just living in their religion, which they have been doing. It doesn't make any sense. But let's continue.
Now, with that said, is everybody in the United States entitled to the same rights? Of course. But your right does not extend to forcing me to call you what you want me to call you. That's not the way this works. That violates my freedom of speech. So in interpersonal relationships, if I were out to dinner with a trans person, would I make a point of noting their proper biological sex? No, because that would be impolite. When I'm talking about the general principle of is a man a woman or is a woman a man, the answer is I will say that a man is a man and a woman is a woman and a he is a he and a she is a she. And if I'm in a public debate with somebody, I will say the same thing.
I do want to clarify that when I meant, I wasn't trying to say disagreement. I was relating it to the same definition of homophobia, which is prejudice, or I tried to say discrimination.
Right. So I think that again, homophobia. There are some people who actively want to do violence to people who are gay. Right. I mean, those people are not me or anybody that I agree with. Obviously, I've never at any point in my entire career ever advocated violence, God forbid, against anybody in a civilized society. That's not something that I believe in, and I think it's evil. As far as I think again, your original definition of transphobia actually is better applied here as well. I think it's disagreement with certain principles that the homosexual community wishes to espouse.
What I was saying was that's not what I was. I was instead
I know,
of saying
I'm saying that I agree with your original definition and not your.
Yeah, because what has he done to discriminate? And this is the problem. This is what they try to do. They try to put images or put definitions or labels on you that you don't even do. Oh, you discriminate against this. How does he discriminate? Is him being Jewish discrimination? I have a shirt right now that says I love Jesus. Based off of this shirt, you can tell about me there are certain things that I may or may not support. Does that mean I'm discriminating against anyone or anything? No. It means that I have a religion. I'm going to live and follow this religion. And because of that, there are some things I just will never agree with. I won't discriminate against anyone. I probably won't even say anything in the videos. But I just won't agree with it. But people want you to lay down and accept their rules. They want you to lay down and accept their laws. They want you to lay down and say what they want you to say. They want to take away all your freedom. He's saying, that's not happening with me. I have beliefs. Take it or leave it.
Your definition. So the definition that you made.
No, I'm not saying it's mine. It's one that I Googled, that I found.
Right. So, and I think that definition is wrong, and I think that the one that you Freudian slipped was right, is what I'm saying.
So I'm saying based on the institution of, I don't want to say the institution of Google because that's an extremely general thing to say, but in terms of as soon as you search transphobia, homophobia, this is what comes up.
Right, and I
think. Do you feel like even though you're disagreeing with transphobia, with the trans community, which I believe we all have our own disagreements, I'm asking, do you feel that the fact that with your disagreement, you're inherently, through the institutions that have provided these definitions, discriminating against trans community?
And I'm saying,
encouraging other people to follow.
So
I know
here's
it's a long question, but I had to encapsulate a lot of things.
So here's what I'm saying. I disagree with either their definition is wrong or it's overly broad in its application.
Okay.
So if the idea is that if I say a man is a man and a woman is a woman is inherently transphobic, that's not discrimination, that's disagreement. If they say that's discrimination, they're overly applying their own label.
I think when you say they're mentally ill, that gives off.
I have said, and I will continue to maintain, that gender dysphoria or gender identity disorder, whichever DSM you choose to use, is a mental illness.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing is, if he says that, that's his personal opinion. And it's not like he's saying it to disrespect anyone. If your religion, and this is about your beliefs with a God, if your religion says that there is a man and there is a woman, point blank period, it says that, you're just going to believe, you're going to follow that dichotomy throughout your life. And that's what he's doing. Anything that's out of that dichotomy, you're going to think is wrong. Point blank period. This is what he is. This is who he is. So why are you trying to change him? I don't know what the hat is called on his head, so I'm not going to even try to describe it. But that's who he is. That's who he follows. He's a Jewish man. Everything outside of that religion, he's going to think is wrong. Why are you trying to force him to believe something else? Let him believe what he wants to believe. Why do people care so much? That's what I want to know. Why do people care so much?
That is, and again, God forbid that it should be said with any animus, because this is not said with animus. When people are suffering, these are clearly folks who are suffering. When people are suffering, you shouldn't be saying stuff with animus. I'm not saying that as a gotcha to people who are transgender. The point that I'm making is that when a society begins treating folks who have mental illness as though they are representing an objective reality, they are doing no service to the people who actually suffer from a mental illness. My grandfather suffered from schizophrenia, paranoid schizophrenia. He was institutionalized. If the doctors had said to him, Nate, you're fine. We believe that the radio is actually talking to you. That is not a service to him. That would have been terrible for him. Right? They put him in an institution. They gave him lithium, and it helped. Now, I'm not saying there's even a great solution for folks who have gender identity disorder or gender dysphoria, because the solutions that I've seen, including transgender surgery, are not intensely effective from all the studies that I've seen. It's a tragic, tragic situation. But the solution is not to redefine as a society what sex means along anti-biological lines. As far as the homophobia point, it's my own religious belief about the sinful nature of particular people's behavior should have no impact on how you act in a free country or how you think. It's a free country.
I just said that. Exactly. His religious belief, why do people care? And the reason why people care is because they're anti-religion. They're anti-God. That's why a lot of people really care. Let's get down to the nitty-gritty of it. They hate that you believe that. And because of that, they're not going to say it, but they're just going to slightly imply it. Oh, you need to follow this. You need to say this. Why? It's against my religion. Oh, you're letting a Bible dictate how you live life? Anyways, this is insane.
Country, do what the hell you want. Right? There's religious ben, which is what I think is sinful, which is Jews who violate Sabbath, right? Jews who eat shellfish. Right? There's a lot of things that we think are sinful in Judaism. Right? And then there's the stuff where do what you want because it's a free country. I think people do a lot of sinful stuff all the time, and I'm not calling them on it. Right? I think the people who are living together outside of marriage are sinning according to my traditional religious beliefs. It's a free country. Do what you want. So when people say homophobia, I think what they are doing is saying you disagree with me. I've never called for violence, and not only that, I'm in favor of legalization of same-sex marriage in the sense I want the government completely out of marriage. Right? I don't want the government in the marriage business at all. So it's very...
And I think this young woman is trying to learn. I really do. It sounds like she's a college student, a leftist college student. But the problem is that she automatically came into this discussion under the premise that he is transphobic and homophobic. And honestly, he's just a Jewish man. Like, he's just Jewish. But anyways, if you have any discussions or conversations, let me know in the comments. I'll see you guys later.